Jacob, here's what I know. If you want to even begin to claim that a study has proven that castrating and sterilizing little boys helps them in the long run, then you would need to have a large sample size of children who've gone through these procedures, and we've checked back with them in adulthood to see how they're doing. Those studies do not exist. They can't exist because we weren't doing this to kids at anywhere near this scale even 5 years ago, let alone 10 years ago. What that tells us, Jacob, is that the kids we have right now, they are the sample.
Actually,
okay, they are the experiment. We are experimenting on children right now.
What's going on, everyone? Sauce Kenny here today. We'll be reacting to a video from the Young American Foundation. This is Matt Walsh versus a pompous leftist. Pretty much debating the what is a woman and gender reassignment surgery. This should be a good one. Let's get into the video.
Why in your movies and your discussions do you selectively ignore and misrepresent the recent burgeoning medical and behavioral literature that demonstrates that gender-affirming care and similar medical interventions demonstrate consistent improvements to mental health, suicidality, and general well-being?
Which study are those?
There are probably like 30 studies by this point, all produced in the last like 10 years or so.
There's one thing I hate. My main problem with leftists is a lot of them, not all of them, a lot of them assume like credibility. Like they assume that you should trust everything that come out of their mouth, but you should be skeptical with everything that come out of someone from the right's mouth. When my view is I'm skeptical of both of you guys, and both of you have to make something very specific that I could verify or I can question. And the fact that Matt Walsh started off asking up questions, which study, and he couldn't give a specific study, showed that, yo, you're doing the same thing you claim Matt Walsh is doing, cherry picking or selectively ignoring inconvenient cues for mental health. And I don't want to ramble, but from my observation, right, someone who believes in something that should stay in its natural state, I have a tinged instinct, gut feeling that messing with something, altering something in its natural state would not make it happy. If you had a dog and you made it, I think for its mental health, it wants to only have 3 legs, and you leave it with 3 legs, I don't think the dog will be happy, honestly. It's the same thing with humans. I don't think cutting off their genitalia will make them happy in the long run, especially when they compare themselves with someone who's actually born said gender. But I digress. Let's get back into the video.
So anybody can look them up on.
Okay, well, just here's the problem. Here's the problem. I'm not impressed by just you saying a study.
No,
okay, because
studies.
Fine. Well, there could be 100 studies. There could be 1,000 studies.
Them.
Great. Yeah, and I have read them. Have you?
Yes, I have.
Okay. So I'll give you one example. I don't know if you can give me any examples, but I'll give you one example of a recent study that and this was just in the headlines. It said that it proved that double mastectomies for minor girls improves their well-being. And this was a study, and it was proven, peer-reviewed. Then you read how they actually conducted this study, and you find out that they interviewed a very small selection of girls in one region of the country, all from the same socioeconomic background, and they did their follow-up, I think it was 3 months later, and based on a follow-up a few months later, they've determined that, oh yeah, it improves well-being.
That's why they say there's 3 kind of lies. I forgot what it was. I forgot the quote. I know it's from Mark Twain. That's all I know. But statistics is one of them, all right? Because statistics, to me, don't prove a narrative. They only prove a result. And if the method, I'm like, that don't accurately prove a result. That's why people can still question statistics. Just because, I have all these statistics, that don't mean anything to me. Does it address the question I had? Did it address my argument? No, I don't believe it did. Right? It's someone saying, hey, this don't work long term, and you telling me, oh, look, it's proved to help health satisfaction. When I'm like, yo, we just started doing this. How you have all this data already? You cherry picking. You chose one social economic class, usually are wealthy people who can afford this stuff, or at least middle class. One region of the country, hell, it could have been in California, where they're doing this stuff to 16-year-old kids, I believe. California. I might be wrong, but you guys let me know in the comment section, right? And then 3 months later, you're saying, hey, are you happy with your results? And that's how you constitute, oh yeah, this is, and then you make a blanket statement that this makes them happier. What? When there's studies for 10 years where the suicidality, I hope I said that right, doesn't change. Actually, it might increase after you do the gender reassignment surgery. But yeah, I digress, man.
You see the problem here? No, I don't want. I don't.
There are many, but there are. This is the exception to the rule. Many of
I don't think it is.
use observational data with various follow-up from like 6 months to 5 years to 10 years, and they don't demonstrate what you claim.
Well, you can say the word study, but what I'm saying is when you
look them up.
Okay,
They're
great.
You can Google them.
Yeah, and so can you. It sounds like you haven't.
I've done it a good bit.
Oh, you've done it.
This is a common tactic I noticed too from the left that mostly feminists. I noticed feminists do that too. When I question them, they always ask, "Do your own research," and I'm like, "I did. This is how I came to this conclusion. Enlighten me, right? Maybe because end of the day, if you claim I'm biased, if I do the research, I'm gonna find something that balances that caters to my worldview. And that's for anybody, left, right. This is why free speech is important. This is why public discussion is important. So that way we give each other, we are each other's checks and balances. So that way we don't go far direction, far right, whatever. Because we have an open dialogue. We're called, hey, where you get this? Well, that don't sound like right to me. What about this? This. So we actually get more closer to the truth because we know, you know what they say, the truth is somewhere in the middle, right? So having a discussion helps both sides lead closer to the truth. And as long as both sides have an appreciation for the truth, the country should go forward. And that is, in my mind, in our tribal political landscape right now, I don't think that's possible. This is why I think peacefully we should do a national divorce. But that's just me. I digress.
A good bit. Okay. All right. Well, I just gave you an
transgender health, PubMed, NIH, gender affirming care.
Sorry, I'm just going to say gender affirming care, like that to me, that's bias. You're a biased organization. You want this stuff, so of course you're going to say something positive about it. You get what I'm trying to go with this. You know, I'm just saying.
And I mean, it's
okay. Let me ask you.
Anybody can look at this.
What's your name?
Jacob.
Jacob. Let me ask you this. How do you think they would have large-scale, long-term studies about the effects of these drugs and these surgeries on children when we only started doing it to children at a large scale a few years ago? Mm-hmm. So how could that even exist?
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, I think scale is probably one of the more prevalent challenges of these studies.
Okay, so we're already hearing that there are challenges in these studies.
Every study has challenges. Like any scientific truth, like all of the scientific truth that we take for granted today, they're built on methodologies that fundamentally have flaws. Like if you want to make a specific critique,
and they like consistently through historical test, they pass the historical test of time. Like it's been consistently proven time after time after time after time again. That's when we value this as a fact, or hey, this is like undisputed. This is what it is. But look at science today. We're not questioning what is a woman when we have a whole historical archive of what a woman is. We never faced this problem in our past, in our history, ever until modern times. Because some guy in the 70s came out with his gender theory, and now these leftists are spewing it like it's gospel, like it can't be wrong. May I hear theory in it, that thing's debatable. It's not a truth. I don't know. Let me know if I'm crazy. If I hear theory in anything, it's debatable. It's not known. It's an assumption. It's something that they're trying to test out. So if I'm going with a definition that's been proven over all of human history to be true, and then you coming out with your new definition expecting me to adopt it because feelings, bro, of course we're going to disagree. But my problem is they'll have these institutions back them up and try to spew this as if it was gospel. Like science can't be wrong. Science is not about proving a narrative, like I said in the beginning of my monologue, but it's supposed to show a result. You guys doing all this methodology to prove a narrative, and this is why your statistics are always discounted, disproven, retracted. These are the lies that Mark Twain was trying to warn us about, and I think we should take it to heart. Let's continue.
You can do that if you're talking about.
I just did.
Well, if you're talking about sample size, there are very well demonstrated statistical results that you don't need 10,000 people to get like a statistically significant value.
Yes, you do. Here's
no, absolutely not. It's like a very basic statistical fact.
Jacob.
A sample size greater than 1,000 that can that has very nice asymptotic properties. Like
Jacob,
all people from one region of the country has like they make no more sense to me. Apply to all people in general. I digress, man.
Here's what I know. If you want to even begin to claim that a study has proven that castrating and sterilizing little boys helps them in the long run, then you would need to have a large sample size of children who've gone through these procedures, and we've checked back with them in adulthood to see how they're doing. Those studies do not exist. They can't exist because we weren't doing this to kids at anywhere near this scale even 5 years ago, let alone 10 years ago. What that tells us, Jacob, is that the kids we have right now, they are the sample. Okay?
Yep. And because I don't want my kid to be the sample, people will come here and try to take away my guardianship of my child because I'm not going along with the new thing, the popular thing. Look, I'm not a trend hopper. Like, I don't like trends. I like to wear the same boring old clothes. I don't care about Supreme. I don't care about Gucci. I don't care about Louis. That's just my temperament as an individual. So when you come in here with your new trendy idea, oh look, gender affirming assignment surgery, I'm like, nah, I'd rather go to the old way of how they used to do it. Teach my kid to accept that he is who he is. You are a boy. You can't be a girl, and accept that reality and move on from this, son. Instead of saying, oh, we're playing to it. Yes, well, here's $70K. Here's a $70K surgery that you have to do. We'll mutilate you. You'll have your own version of vagina. But here's this thing. You had to keep it dilated or it'll close. You don't think these people who do the gender reassignment surgery will look and be like, I don't go through the same thing this naturally born woman does. To me, you put them even more in a more chance of being suicidal, because then they realize, yo, I did all this work, I spent all this money, and I'm still not a woman. Like, they'll come to that realization on their own, and they can't take it back. They can't take back what they do to themselves. So as my job as a parent, any parent actually, is to be a guardrail. Hey, we are the defender of our kids. We're the first line of defense for our children. And you think we're gonna let you make my kid a sample size? Nah, let someone else kids be that. Let someone else kids be the sample size, but not my kid. If every parent thought like that, none of this stuff will happen. But you got parents actually believing in this stuff. And Matt Walsh released something to push back against this. Y'all mad. I digress.
They are the experiment. We are experimenting on children right now.
That's just demonstrably, you can easily demonstrate that that's not the case.
And are you, Jacob, are you able to just use your common sense as well? I mean, you can rely on studies, and you could just shout the word study at me and then start.
No, I'm not
you can start. Let me finish.
Sorry.
You can shout about studies and list random medical organizations. That doesn't impress me. There was a time when every medical organization would have told you that, bloodletting is the way to cure every disease. There was a time when every medical organization told you that the vaccine, stopped transmission. So, but
bro, this is why I don't like people who like try to use studies as a position of authority, because I'm like, yo, they're fallible just like we are fallible. Their assumptions are flawed just like our assumptions are flawed. Like, there's no perfect institution that gets everything right 100% of the time. This is why I don't think socialism will ever work, because they rely on institutions to know what's best for everybody. And that's impossible for individuals or a group of individuals to dictate that for millions of people. That's just me. So have the option, hey, you can do gender reassignment surgery, but allow the parents to have the option to be like, nah, my kid ain't doing that. I ain't letting my kid do that. If he want to do that as an adult, that's his business. But as a parent, I'm not letting him do that. And I don't care how people feel about it. Because this is our problem. We care about feelings more than reality. What's the reality? Hey, I castrate my son, and this still won't solve his suicidality. This might actually increase his suicidality, his suicidal ideation. But you want me to believe that it will work because, it'll make him feel better about himself. No, I'm not trying to make him feel better about himself. I'm trying to correct or at least get him to a point where he's in a healthy mental state to understand, hey, this is the reality of the situation, son, and you must accept that you are born a boy, not a girl. Get into the video.
Here's what I want to know. Are we able to just use common sense as well, and based on common sense, determine that it is certainly not a good idea to sterilize and castrate children and remove body parts from children, before they are possibly old enough to consent to those procedures. Don't we know that just based on basic moral decency and common sense?
Sure, but you're trying to make causal statements about the impacts of medical interventions. You need to demonstrate that with science, and I'm not mentioning, and I'm not like making an ethos argument. Oh, like look at this organization. I'm saying that there are like very rigorous ways to substantiate your claims, and the people that are spending lots of time are doing that, and they come to conclusions that are very different from the ones that you say. I'm not making an appeal to ethos. Anybody can look up these studies and just see how they're done.
Right, and these are also studies being done by the people who it just so happens are profiting from the procedures that they say work, which is really interesting. But
do you think your professors are getting paid by like some?
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of them are.
You think there's somebody like paying your professors for?
Yes.
I think you should.
How do you think it works, Jacob?
Because that's very unrealistic.
Do you think
It's
they're
very
not being
realistic.
paid?
No.
Would a professor work for free? Was my answer. Okay, let's continue.
They ain't doing this for free, I'll tell you that.
No. They're definitely being paid. But like, if there's some shady organization paying them, like, I'm sorry, that's sort of silly. Like, talk with your professors. That's like sort of silly.
Okay.
And you see how he argues? He's not trying to argue any, like, he's not making any counter arguments, really. He's just saying, you're silly. You think that way? You really think that way? It's almost like they're mocking you. They're mocking your conclusions. Instead of respecting, hey, okay, I see how you come to this conclusion. I believe you came to that conclusion wrong. Here's how. Here's why. Give a counter argument. Give something of substance, Jacob? But instead, he makes fun of us. Like, he's like, oh, you guys really came to this conclusion? Yes, if half the country comes to this conclusion, bro, you got a problem. But, oh, you want to make fun of us? You want to dismiss us? This is what they always do. And then they want to get mad when you don't consider them credible anymore, when you don't trust them anymore. And that pisses them off. This is why this whole, like, I don't know how I got to this, but Eric July thing is going on right now. Oh, you started your own publishing company, and you started publishing your own comic. Sorry. And you see how mad they are because they like, yo, like, you don't think we're legitimate anymore? And that's what they care about a lot. Leftists care about legitimacy so much. And when you don't give it to them, it pisses them off. But I digress. Let's continue. Let's finish off this video.
Let me just ask.
You know anything? There's always some conspiracy.
I think you can know things without asking for permission sometimes from professors to say that you know them.
Yep.
No, I'm just saying.
And one of those things that you can know is that it's never okay to castrate a child. I mean, I don't need Jacob.
Thank you, Matt.
Okay. All right. Good conversation.
I don't believe there's any reason to do these experimental surgeries when we don't know the full extent of the consequence of these decisions, right? So you can have the option. I'm not saying no one can have the option, but I'm saying you shouldn't be pushing this on parents to be like, oh, you must do this to address this issue, right? There's no one size fit all solution, and to try to market this gender reassignment surgery as the only way to address gender dysphoria, I think is wrong. But I digress. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.